Amateur Traveler is in its 20th year now, but can you imagine if I had people on the show who had never been to the destination, but had just read about it or seen a movie about it? That wouldn't make any sense at all, and you wouldn't listen. We all know how important it is to receive advice from people who know a destination to get the most authentic local experience. And a great option for experiencing this is Explore Worldwide and their authentic small group adventures, led by local tour leaders, perfect for solo travelers who want to meet like minded people with a desire for adventure. I'm often an independent traveler, but two of my last three trips were with small group tours because they organize everything and it's a lot easier. If you want to recreate the tour I did to Malta, they have a Malta and Gozo Discovery Tour. I'm intrigued by one of their tours called A Taste of Sicily. The company again is Explore Worldwide, and visit exploreworldwide.com to learn more. And thanks to Explore Worldwide for sponsoring this episode of Amateur Traveler. Amateur Traveler, episode 824. Today, the Amateur Traveler talks about diving and salt ponds, cactus and flamingos, windsurfing, and land sailing as we go to the island of Bonaire. This is Chris Christensen from Amateur Traveler. Let's talk about Bonaire. I'd like to welcome to the show Eric Gietman from Cadushy Distillery on Bonaire, who's come to talk to us about the beautiful island of Bonaire. Eric, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for having me.
I feel like I should say welcome back. Eric and I tried this earlier, but the internet was not cooperative. We were out in the weak internet portions of the Isle of Bonaire. Eric, what is your connection with the island of Bonaire?
I moved to the island 14 years ago. And before that, me and my wife fell in love with the island once we visited Bonaire for the first time on our honeymoon in 1997. And after vacationing every year after 1997, after 10 years of vacationing, we decided to move here and to start a business here. And because we found out that Bonaire didn't have a distillery yet, which in my opinion was a bit odd because Caribbean island without a distillery sounds a little odd. We said, okay, let's start a distillery there. And so we did 14 years ago. And now we have a really nice distillery here on the island. And I was also very active in the tourism industry on the island. I was in the board of the Hotel and Tourism Association for 11 years. And I served as president for 5 years. And I live in Rincon, which is a settlement on the other side of the island of Bonaire. Yeah, that's me. Then, that's my background a little bit, how I ended up on this tropical island here.
And let's put it on a map. We're talking about the B and the ABCs, Aruba, Curacao, and Bonaire.
It's the lesser known B of the ABC. And of course, a lot of people know Aruba, a lot of people know Curacao, the A and the C, and Bonaire is the lesser known. And that's not really a problem for us because Bonaire is not a destination for everyone. We don't do mass tourism, and it's a little hidden gem, and we want to keep it like that. It's about 80 kilometers above Venezuela, so it's really in the south of the Caribbean. It's off the coast of Venezuela. It's 288 square kilometers. That's 111 square miles. So it's not a big island. It's not small too. Even Aruba is smaller than Bonaire, but Aruba has a lot of more inhabitants and a lot more tourists. We have around 22,000 inhabitants on the island. And we have about 250,000 visitors.
Well, and usually if Bonaire gets mentioned, it gets mentioned in relationship to the diving, I would have to say, but we'll get into that. Why do you think someone should come to Bonaire?
If you really like nature and friendly people and you're looking for a safe destination where you can just drive around and explore the island, Bonaire is definitely a good destination to visit. That's why we fell in love with the island. The people are so friendly, are so open. The island is safe. So you can explore the island on your own. You rent a car and just drive around, and you will stop somewhere with a snack and have a drink and chat with the locals. And that's what caught our heart. And then the landscape, it's a rugged nature. We call Bonaire the cactus capital of the Caribbean because we have so many cactuses on the island, probably more than any other island in the Caribbean. So, yeah, that makes a really different destination. And A lot of people that visit Bonaire for the first time, when they go and then when they return, they say it feels like coming home when you arrive on Bonaire. There's a tranquility on the island that is really difficult to grasp, but it's really special. And a lot of people get stung by that Bonairean virus, and they keep on coming back. Of course, the divers around the world know Bonaire because it's a diver's paradise. We have 72 designated dive spots on the island, and the coral reef is pristine, has been protected for more than 40 years. It's one of the oldest marine reserves in the world. Diving is fabulous here. But of course, there's more than diving on the island. There's a lot more to explore, also above water. But water sports in general is fabulous here. If you like windsurfing, if you like kite surfing, supping, snorkeling, swimming, sailing, whatever water sports is fantastic here. The water is always warm, and we have a trade wind that always blows at least for 12 knots, a very steady trade wind. So that makes surfing and sailing and that kind of activities like a dream.
Excellent. Well, let's get into the itinerary that you'd recommend. How are we going to start?
I thought about that, and it's really difficult to give it an itinerary for everyone. A lot of
Hmm.
people come to Bonaire and they have already the plan. They come for diving, they come for snorkeling, they come for
Hmm.
kite surfing, and they come in on the island and they go to their accommodation, and from there they start doing their activities and have a lot of fun with that. But if you come to the island in general and you never visited I would recommend to drive around. Also, when you're familiar to the island, it's always fun to drive around the island. It's not so big, so in half
Hmm.
a day you can do half the island. So in 2.5 days, you can drive around the whole island and explore it a little bit, get a general feeling about what Bonaire has to offer. And the landscape and the nature in the south is so different from the landscape in the north that it feels like you're exploring two different islands and just a small island like Bonaire. The south is really flat and mostly even below sea level. And
Oh, okay. I didn't
yeah,
realize that.
yeah,
That makes the salt works and things like that you have in the South make a lot more sense to me. Okay.
exactly, yeah. So that's where the salt works is. That's where the salt is produced. It's the one export product besides of rum that we have on the island. That's where also a lot of the water sports activities take place. We have a special designated spot for the kite surfers, and it's the water there is really great. And
Okay. Well, let's get more specific then. You mentioned kite surfing in a special designated spot. What's that spot?
the spot is on the south, and it's called Kite Beach, very original. And so that's where all the kiters are designated to go to, because kiting and windsurfing and diving are sports that are not really doing well together. So everyone has his designated spot to do their sports. And kite surfing is in the south, just a little bit south of the salt pier. The salt pier is where the salt works deliver their salt to the ships that come in to get the salt. So if you drive down south, there's a road all around the south of the island. It's a very narrow road. So if you have to pass, if people come from the opposite side, you have to, okay, give each other room. Actually, it's more suitable for one vehicle, but you have to do two vehicles. So you will drive slowly, enjoy the pink salt ponds on the left side and the turquoise and blue Caribbean Sea on the right side. And just driving there to the south with the trade winds coming into your car, that will make you forget your work and everything. Just the first kilometer that you're driving down south. And then you see those kite surfers, and you go there. They're friendly people, and they make the greatest tricks there. They jump way high, all kind of crazy tricks. It's fun to just watch that for a few minutes or half an hour, have a drink there on the beach, and then you will drive on and to the most southern point of the island. That's where Willemstoren Lighthouse is. That's the
Hmm.
oldest lighthouse of the island. And then from there, you drive up again to the east side, and that's where Lac Kai is. Lac is a lagoon. It's quite a big lagoon with a barrier where the trade winds come in, and that's where the windsurfing is taking place. The lagoon is no deeper than 1 to 1.5 meter deep. So if you fall in from your board, you can stand up and just climb onto your board again. The water is sometimes so warm it feels like a hot shower, and it's easy to learn windsurfing there. but it's also very good if you're a little bit more advanced windsurfer. Some of the world champions come from Bonaire, and they practice there. They are practicing there every day, doing their tricks, doing their stuff. And we have some bars on the beach there, so you can have a drink and watch those people do the craziest tricks just in front of you. From there on, I would recommend to drive around that lagoon and go to Lakai, which is a little fisherman's settlement. And there they have a little bar, and you can have a beer there and have some food. On Sundays, they're playing music there, live music. And it's a really nice mix of locals and visitors. So you get to know the local people of the island, and the fishermen are proud to show what they have there and what they're doing.
And anything else we want to do in the southern part of the island? I think you mentioned mangroves when we talked before.
Yes, that's true. Around this lagoon, there's a mangrove forest, and you can do a great kayak tour there. That's one of the really nice activities you can do on the island. You learn something about the mangroves, the importance of the mangroves and the wetlands around the world to protect both the fish, but also protect the land from erosion. So it's a really interesting stop to make, and also fun to just kayak in between those forests. It's all protected areas. We have more national parks on the island than we have not national parks. So most of the island is designated national parks and protected. And Kai is also one of them. It's a Ramsar protected, the Ramsar Treaty protected area. So there's no building allowed and no development allowed. And that's really well protected there. And in the middle of the salt ponds, that's where the flamingo sanctuary is. We have one of the biggest populations of flamingos around the world. There's more flamingos on the island than inhabitants, Bonaireans. So more than 20,000 flamingos on the island. Sometimes you can approach them really, really close, but mostly you can see them far, flying over. But they are so cute animals. They're so funny animals. With the long legs and the long neck and the sounds that they make. And it's really a unique experience to see flamingos in the wild up close. So that's definitely something not to miss. We have them in the south, but we also have them in the north at the Goto Lake. And they fly back and forward between those places. And they fly sometimes at night, they fly to Venezuela to get food there and fly back in the morning. If you like flamingos and if you want to see flamingos, Bonaire is definitely a place to go to. That said, bird watching is coming up on the island. Bonaire is definitely a great destination to do bird watching. We have some really special species on the island. I'm not a bird watcher, but my wife is, and she's like, "Oh, that's a unique species again." But of course, the flamingo is special, and we have a local parrot called Laura, also a protected species. It's a yellow-shouldered Amazon parrot. And we do have a good population of that, and they are also really cute to watch. They are not so good flyers. If they fly around, it's okay. Coming, and when they sit in a tree, they talk to each other all the time. So they make a lot of noise, and it's like clowns in a tree. They're so funny what they're doing. So it's a feast to watch those birds just in their natural environment. And because we don't have a lot of people, they are really not shy, and they just do their thing, and that's a really good thing on Bonaire. Let me see. From there, then the south is pretty much covered. And then for the north, if you drive north, I would recommend taking the tourist road. We have a special road. It's called the tourist road. It's officially that name. It's specially built in the 60s of last century to guide the tourists up. And it's a scenic road. It's along the coast. So there's virtually no development there along the coast. And you just drive, and 2 meters to the left, you see the turquoise and blue Caribbean Sea. And it lingers along the coast up to the north. And it's just a really nice experience just to drive that road. Every now and then, when I have the time and I feel like I need to de-stress, I take that road to my home in the north just to enjoy the island and enjoy the feeling of the sea and the tranquility of the island. So I definitely recommend doing that. You will pass by some famous dive sites. One of the famous dive sites on the island is 1,000 Steps. There's a stairs down to the beach. And if you're going down with your dive gear, it feels like 1,000 steps. But it's actually 72 steps. But it feels like 1,000. Then driving up north, you will pass by some old plantation houses, and then you go to the Goto Lake. And the Goto Lake is another Ramsar site where also some flamingos, a lot of flamingos are walking around, flying around, foraging. So there's a viewing point there. Stop at the viewing point, have a drink, and pass on. And then drive into Rincon. Rincon is the oldest settlement of the Dutch Caribbean. It was founded in 1527 by the Spanish. And it is a village. That's where I live now. That's also where my business is. And it's around 1,600 people living in Rincon. And it's in a valley. Those Spanish, they really knew where to settle. It's in a very fertile valley. The northern part is much more elevated, much more hills. And in between those hills, there's a valley. And that's where Rincon is. And Rincon is a really nice village. There's a friendly people, authenticity, and you just can walk around here, have a chat with the locals, have a beer, walk into a bar and have a chat with locals and meet the local people of the island. And they are super friendly. They're super proud on their island, and they will give you advice on where to go or what to see. And I definitely recommend people, if they're a little bit adventurous, to do that. Just walk into a bar, order a beer or Coca-Cola or whatever, and have a chat with a local, because those experiences are priceless. And of course,
You mentioned the fields and things around there, and you've already given us a little glimpse into the island and the scenery when you mentioned how many cactus there are. And for people who haven't been to the Caribbean, they may be surprised by that. I think I was the first time I went to especially some of the lower Caribbean islands that don't have big volcanoes in the middle or something like that, how a lot of it is brush and cactus and very dry.
yes, annual rainfall on the island is 520 millimeters. So that's
Mhm.
20 inches of rain yearly. And that falls in just a few months. And then within the few months, it just falls within a few days. So we have some heavy showers on a few days a year. And for the rest of the year, there's virtually no rain. We do have some clouds, but the clouds don't give rain. It gives
Mhm.
just a little bit shade of the sun. We like that here on the island because the sun can be really hot. And even if you don't watch out, a little bit dangerous if you get too much of the sun. So the clouds are really welcoming shade.
It did make me wonder that you mentioned that there wasn't a distillery on the island and you were surprised. There's not a lot of water on the island. So I wonder if that might be one of the reasons that no one else had started a distillery yet.
Yeah,
You
no,
need that for.
no. While you need water, we have one of the best water in the Caribbean. Water is produced by reverse osmosis from seawater.
Mhm.
It's quite expensive. The water is really expensive here, but it's really good drinkable water. I traveled to the US a few times, and when I'm in the US, I drink bottled water because, but on Bonaire, I drink from the tap. Definitely. So I always recommend if you come here, it's really safe to drink that water, and it tastes actually very good. And that's one of the reasons we also make really good alcoholic beverages, because one of the ingredients is also water. And if you don't have
Mhm.
water, you cannot make good alcoholic beverages. So water is definitely important. We used to have wells on the island, and back in the old days, people were using their well water. But nowadays, the wells are used to make sure that the wildlife of Bonaire gets its water. So like the donkeys and
Hmm.
but yes, Bonaire is definitely arid, and a lot of people think about palm trees,
Right. Yeah.
and of course we do have palm trees, but we definitely have more cacti than palm trees.
Hmm.
So yeah, you have to be expecting cactus forest, but that's also a fun thing, and it's different just seeing millions of cactus around you, from tiny cacti, from really small till cacti that grow over 30 feet high. So yeah, I do like that, and I think if you're open to it, you can really enjoy. One of the good things to enjoy that nature and those cacti is going to one of our national parks, which is really close to Rincon. It's called Washington Slagbaai National Park. And if you take your time, you can drive it around in one day and relax at some beaches, snorkel at a few spots. And there's so many cactuses around, and it's all off-road. So it needs a little bit steering, but it's fun to drive around and experience the nature of the island in its fullest.
Konnichiwa, I'm Yuki, a tour leader with Explore. Who knew that hidden among Tokyo's towering skyscrapers was a peaceful tea house surrounded by ancient trees and serene ponds. Actually, I knew it was my mother's secret sanctuary. Not everyone knows about Tokyo's Hamarikyu Gardens. ありがとうございます. But you will if you explore. Search exploreworldwide.com and don't just travel, explore.
Anything else we want to do when we're up in that northern part of the island? Now, you mentioned the national park. Now we're at the northernmost tip of the island.
Yes, of course. Visit my business. Come to the distillery.
And see what you can do with cactus and water.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to drink a cactus, you have to come to Bonaire, to the Cadushy Distillery. We make alcoholic beverages out of the cactus liqueur, cactus rum, and we also make some other really nice products. And we're located in the center of Rincon, in the old party center of the island of Rincon. And the distillery is actually in the oldest movie theater of the island.
Oh, okay.
It's an old building from 1957. It's a protected historical building. And in that building, we have our distillery right now. And there's a nice garden around it with really ancient trees. And most of the time, you find a lot of birds and loras and hummingbirds and iguanas in our garden. So, yeah, definitely worth the stop. And a lot of people do. We get about 25 to 30,000 visitors annually in our distillery. And most of them love it, so don't forget to visit us. When you go back from Rincon to Kralendijk, by the way, Kralendijk is officially the name of the capital of the island. No one here on the island calls it Kralendijk. Everyone calls it Playa. That's much easier to pronounce, much easier to remember. So if you come to Bonaire, just say we go to Playa. So we have Playa and we have Rincon. If you go from Rincon back to Playa, you can stop over at the land sailing site. You can do some land sailing.
You say land sailing like this is something that everybody has. And I have to stop you here because we need to draw a mental picture for people what land sailing is. I think some people got it right away.
Okay.
But we're in a sailboat, except it's got wheels and we're...
Yeah, it's not really a boat. It's a cart with 3 wheels and a sail on it. It's really low on the ground, so you have a low point. And you can go really fast with them. Yeah, there's a circuit where you can race around. And it's really fun to do. Yeah, it's a fun thing to explore.
For someone like me who's never done this, I can learn in an afternoon to do land sailing?
You can learn it in 10 minutes.
10 minutes, okay. Yeah. So I've got a better chance at this than I do of doing the windsurfing or something like that because I don't need balance.
Yeah, you don't need balance. You can just sit down and they will teach you how to do it and you can just sail away. And it's pretty easy. The first few rounds you won't go fast and then you get feel for it and then you go faster and then I
tip over.
And then you tip over. Yeah, I did that. Not a good thing to do, but
okay.
It happens. But it's much easier indeed than windsurfing or kite surfing. It's really very accessible sports and activity to do.
Excellent.
If you're done the land sailing, if you're into golf, I would recommend going to our golf course. It is definitely the strangest golf course around the world. And you have to play it. It's one of those things you have to have done. So if you're golfing and come to Bonaire, spend half a day on the golf course. It's 18 holes. It's 72 par. We have artificial grass greens. The fairway is not with grass. It's built into the landscape. So it's completely the landscape of the island. And I love to go there because it's just a fresh wind. It's on the east side near the rough coast of the island. And you can just walk around in the nature and play a nice game. So if you're into golfing, don't forget to go there. That's overview of the north and the south. And of course, you have to eat and drink on the island. Bonaire has been designated as a culinary capital by the World Food Travel Association just recently, meaning we have a lot to offer on the culinary side. We have really a lot of different venues, from really small food trucks to fine dining at the coast. So there's a lot to discover on the culinary side. So I definitely also recommend people to look into that and see if you can find some nice restaurants to visit. If you stay here for 3 weeks, you can every night you can go into a different restaurant and be surprised by the quality and the interesting dishes that we serve here on the island.
And if you had to pick out a couple favorites at the risk of offending the people you don't pick, which ones would you pick?
One of my personal favorites is Joe's Restaurant. It's run by a young couple. They're working really hard. And the chef there is Bart. And he is a self-educated chef. He wasn't trained in culinary, but he is definitely a chef that has a really good feeling for the culinary fine dining. And his partner, Jessica, is the host of the restaurant, and they are really a nice couple. And they serve one of the best foods on the island, in my opinion. And it's really relaxed, it's casual, but it's fine dining, and the price is reasonable. So that's you'll find me at least once a week over there.
And when you say casual in Bonaire, I'm interpreting that as no need to put on long pants. Am I in the right?
Exactly. That's
okay.
Shorts, flip a t-shirt, whatever you want. It's your holiday, and you enjoyed it in the way you want it. So no dressing up, no fancy things. If you want, you can do it, and it's perfectly fine. But casual is really casual here.
Okay.
And we have some Michelin star restaurants. Bras Boer is owned by Johnny Boer. He's a Dutch 3 Michelin star restaurant owner. And he opened up Bras Boer here on the island, which is really nice to visit. That's a bit more upscale, and the prices are also a bit more upscale, but definitely also worth visiting. One of the special food trucks that we have here is called Cactus Blue. And they serve a local lionfish burger. We have a lionfish here in the Caribbean. It's an invasive species. And
you were encouraged to eat it.
And we encouraged to eat it. And we have not many lionfish left in the sea around Bonaire anymore because the lion burger is so popular that they're all eaten. So that's
So Cactus Blue is doing their part.
They are doing their part, and the visitors are doing their part by ordering that lionfish burger, and it's delicious. Hey, you're doing a good job. You're helping a good cause. Mm-hmm. You're eating a delicious burger. So, does life get any better than that?
No, that sounds pretty good to me.
Maybe have a rum with it, but no, just kidding. So yeah, that's some of the venues I definitely recommend. There's really not really bad restaurants on the island. Even the more local restaurants or snackies, they are called snackies here. You can go in and order something, local food. People eat a lot of things that are available in France. Mm-hmm. At this moment, Chimaruku is having fruit. And Chimaruku is the West Indian cherry.
Okay.
And there are trees all over the island. And whenever people see a tree, they stop their car and pick some of the fruit and stop in the middle of the road and start picking the fruit and take some of the fruit with them and share it with their family and friends. We also eat iguana, which is the big lizard that lives on the island. We also call it tree chicken. It tastes like chicken, and they make a soup of it, and they make a stew of it. So people use things that we can find in nature to eat. And we also have a lot of goats on the island, a little bit too much. So we try to eat those as much as possible also. And
also an invasive species, I assume.
Yes, yeah, brought to the island by the Spanish back in 1527. But they multiplied so much that we have more goats.
As they do.
Yeah. Yeah. So we try to eat them away from the island too, but that's more difficult than the lionfish. It seems like it. But we're doing our part.
Eric, I want to try some lightning round questions for you. If I say, where's the best, and then I've got a list of things that I'm curious. If I said, where's the best beach dive experience?
Beach dive. You have shore diving and you have beaches.
Okay, the shore diving, sorry. Okay. That is what I really meant.
Yeah, because beaches and reef are not really a good combination.
Right.
That's why Aruba has great beaches but no reefs. The best shore diving, that depends really on your level of experience. It depends on what you like. I prefer to do shallow dives.
Okay.
I'm certified to go to 30 meters deep, but I like to go 5 to 10 meters because that's where the light is really good. That's where a lot of fish is. That's where the turtles roam around. So there's a lot of wildlife and a lot of fish that you can see there. So one of my favorites is the salt pier.
Okay.
If you go dive on the salt pier, you can almost guarantee that you will see some turtles. You see a lot of big fish. You can only go there when there's no ship. if there's a ship loading
sure.
salt, and you cannot go and dive there.
Right.
But even for snorkeling, that's also a fun snorkel place. But diving is just swimming between the pillars of the pier. There's a lot of fish there underneath. So that's definitely one of my favorites. The 1,000 steps is also really nice. Only those 72 steps are really feeling like 1,000. And one of my other favorite dive spots is Karpata. It's in the north of the island. And that is a really nice dive for shallow diving. You can dive there for 1.5 hours on 5 to 10 meters. See a lot of fish and a lot of turtles and other wildlife. It's a great mix of soft corals and hard coral. It's not the easiest entrance so you have to be a little bit advanced. So yeah, but the 72 designated dive sites, there's so much to offer. Sometimes when I go dive, take my pickup and drive around to the south and see, well, where shall we go and dive? And then we plan to go to the salt pier, but then there's already a few trucks there. And then, okay, let's drive on and see if we can find another dive spot. Because I like to see fish and not divers. So,
Sure.
yeah, so that's the great.
What if I instead asked for the best dive excursion on the island or from the island?
Oh, definitely Roadrunners. Roadrunners is a local guy who owns some electrical vehicles, and he's taking people around the island, and they really make experience the island. And the fun thing with the electrical vehicle is that they are environmentally friendly. They don't make any noise. And it's a really fun way to discover the island. We did that with our team a few times just to discover your own island again with these electrical vehicles. So Roadrunners is definitely one of the tours to do. And you can do the tour like I described from the south and the north under the guidance of a tour guide like them.
Okay. How about the best beach? We talked about the best kiteboarding beach and the best windsurfing beach. If I said the best beach for lying out.
Okay. Some of the hotels have their beaches, so those are good. And all the beaches on the island are publicly accessible, so there's no beaches that you cannot go on. But the best beach is definitely on Klein Bonaire. Klein Bonaire is a really tiny island just in front of Bonaire. If you look at the map of Bonaire is like a shaped boomerang. And in that boomerang, there's a tiny spot, a tiny dot just in the water. That's called Klein Bonaire. That is also a national park. It's completely protected. There's no development there. But that's where we have the best beach to just lie around and swim and snorkel and enjoy. The way to get there is with a water taxi. There's a few places where you just can hop on to a water taxi. They bring you over to the island. Make sure you bring some water, some drinks, some sunscreen. Please use sunscreen without the benzene, so the reef won't be hurt.
Protect the reef.
Yeah, and then you can spend half a day there or a day, and then you can pick up a water taxi back to the mainland.
So I don't even need to book this ahead of time, it sounds like.
No, you don't need to book it. You can just see where they're stopping and make sure that you're there on time and hop on and hop off. And they have a schedule. So if you want to decide to stay another hour longer, you stay another hour longer. Just make sure that you don't miss the last taxi.
Sure, don't miss the last boat. Always a good tip.
Yeah.
And if I said the best beach bar?
The best beach bar would be on the Lakai area where the windsurfers are. We have two of them.
Oh, sorry, the Lakai area. Sorry, in the south. Oh, got it. Okay.
In the south, where the lagoon, where the windsurfers are, there's Sebastian's Beach and Jibe City. Sorry. Jibe City and Sebastian's Beach. Those are two beach bars. They're really right on the edge of the water, feet in the sand. They have great food, great cocktails, and it's a fun vibe to spend some time there.
Got it. Best hike on the island?
Best hike on the island, yeah. Depends also a bit on your fitness, but I definitely recommend climbing the Brandaris. Brandaris is the highest elevation on the island. I think it's 264 meters high. It's not really high, but it's a really nice hike. Climbing up, enjoy the view from the top. If you go there, start early. It's in the national park. The national park opens at 8 o'clock in the morning. Make sure that you're there at 8 o'clock. Drive to the start of the trail, hike up, enjoy the view, and hike down. And then you have to drive 1.5 hour, 1.5 hour back to the entrance of the park. But it's definitely worth doing. And it's the highest point of the island. So from there, you can look over the whole island up to the south, the salt works and everything. Klein Bonaire, you see everything from there.
Excellent. Those were the ones I had in our lightning round. What else should people know before they go to Bonaire?
Wow, that's a good one. Let me think. One thing you really could do is explore some caves on the
Okay.
Bonaire has around 300 caves. Some of them are open for the public. You can only access them with a guide because they are very important habitats for the bat population on the island, and the bats are important for the pollination of the cacti of the island. But it's really a different experience going underground on a tropical island into those caves, seeing those bats, don't disturb them. And then some of the caves is also water, so you can snorkel in the caves. So that's definitely also an experience that you shouldn't miss.
And is there you say I have to do that with a guide? Is there a particular guide you would recommend?
Outdoor Bonaire is a guide that does it. There's several of them, but I did it a few times with Outdoor Bonaire. They do it all. They are certified guides. They had to be certified by the STINAPA, the National Foundation for Nature Protection, and you can only enter those caves with a guide. Yeah.
Got it. Because we have to protect the bats, because that'll protect the cactus. And if we don't protect the bats, we don't get cactus root. So exactly. I think that gives people
Yeah.
Anything else we should do while we're on Bonaire? Otherwise, we'll get to our wrap-up questions.
Wind down, unhurry, de-stress. I think that is the most important thing if you go to an island like Bonaire. Even as soon as you exit the plane, there's a certain vibe coming over you. And the feeling of the warm trade makes you unwind. And then you get at the immigration, at the airport, and the people of the immigration are actually really friendly. And I travel a lot, and I travel all over the world, but friendly people at immigration are really a seldom seen thing. So they are friendly, they welcome you to the island. Then our airport is not big. It's a tiny island which fits the island, of course. And from there, you start to unwind, relax, and de-stress. Because we're all working, we're all busy. But one thing you really want to do on your vacation is relax. And that's one thing you can really do on Bonaire. De-stress, unhurry, and enjoy the vibe of the island.
Excellent. As we get to our wrap-up questions, you were standing in the prettiest spot in Bonaire. Where are you standing and what are you looking at?
The prettiest spot. I like the viewpoint Goto Lake.
Okay.
Because that's where you look out over the hills, over the Mount Brandaris, and in the lake there's the flamingos walking around, flying, surrounded by cacti, of course. And that's really a nice spot to enjoy the view.
Excellent. And one thing that makes you laugh and say only in Bonaire?
Donkeys on the road.
Okay. And wild donkeys, it sounded like from your previous comments.
Yeah, we have wild donkeys. I do not recommend. We also have a donkey sanctuary, but it's like a donkey zoo. You can look at animals in zoos all over the world, but here we have donkeys roaming around in the wild. And you will see them. They will walk on the streets and they will look at you on, hey, what are you doing here? I mean, they're curious, but they are friendly. And it's wild animals and they are just doing their thing and making the noise. And please don't feed them from the car. If you want to greet them, park your car this side of the road and walk to them, because we don't want them to teach them that cars are food. Then we get accidents, car accidents with donkeys do happen, of course. We still have around 500 to 700 wild donkeys roaming around the island. Yeah, they're super funny. and friendly animals, and I like seeing them in the wild. And every time I see them, I smile.
And if you had to summarize Bonaire in just 3 words, Eric, what would you say?
Unhurried, unspoiled, unforgettable.
Excellent. Our guest again has been Eric Gietman, again from the Cadushy Distillery on Bonaire. And if I wanted to get something from the Cadushy Distillery, do I have to go to Bonaire, or do you ship to the U.S.?
No, shipping. We cannot ship to the U.S. You definitely have to come over. Yeah. But
well, it seems like that's going to be the excuse then, right? Eric, thanks so much for coming.
Thank you, Chris.
Back on Amateur Traveler.
And looking forward to you visiting the island.
It sounds like fun.
Okay. Hope to see you one day.
As always, special thanks go out to the patrons of the show who help support Amateur Traveler financially. They get the show a little earlier, and we get monthly Zoom calls. And if you're interested in what else you can get as a patron of the show, or if you're just really happy that you've had some great vacations because of listening to Amateur Traveler, then go to patreon.com/Amateur Traveler. With that, we're going to end this episode of Amateur Traveler. If you have any questions, send an email to host@amateurtraveler.com, or better yet, leave a comment on this episode at amateurtraveler.com. And thanks so much for listening.